Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Next Gen Planners Morning Commute. And it's a Monday morning, nice and sunny. And thank you for all those who've managed to get in with our new imposed Zoom security. We weren't expecting the Zoom security necessarily to be as sharp as it was today. I think Zoom have changed some of their defaults. So thank you for everybody in the audience for finding us today. And good morning, Phil Bray. How are you today?
Adam, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. What was your weekend like?
It was very good. It's lovely and sunny. Plenty of things to do in the garden. Carried on my daughter's chess lessons. So I turn into a grandmaster before she reaches her teenage years. Yeah, it's good. Good.
Excellent stuff. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed I managed to accidentally shave my beard off over the weekend, which is a lesson for anybody with a beard to check that you've got the beard guard on prior to starting to shave. Otherwise, what you end up with is a completely bald stripe down the middle. So a lesson learned there. But we'll update that as the week goes on. I'm sure it'll come back gradually. So what have we got on the show today? Well, we're going to, first of all, launch to, I think it's Ollie Smith today at the new Model Advisor news desk. Ollie, are you there?
Shall I start?
Please do, Ollie. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So good morning, guys. I hope you've had a good weekend. Market update, just first thing, the FTSE has opened on a rally of 3% or thereabouts on hopes that the virus lockdowns across Europe and the world will ease. The UK blue chip index has jumped 162 points or 3% to 5578, joining a global stock market rally. Our top story this morning, however, is not that. It is the firing of Invesco manager Mark Barnett from the Perpetual Income and Growth Trust, following what the trust describes as a number of very challenging conversations over performance. Many of you will know Mark Barnett from his years as the protege of Neil Woodford, and in recent weeks we've had controversy over a number of unquoted and unlisted stocks in Barnett's holdings, just as Woodford had experienced too. In a bid to avoid a Woodford catastrophe, Barnett has been forced to take a 60% haircut on his unlisted stocks in his other funds. That story continues apace. I'm sure there'll be lots more on our website about that in the coming hours and days. You may have seen over the weekend as well the sad news that the Prime Minister has actually been hospitalised now after contracting COVID-19. There is an update story on our website about that, including various details about what might happen next. And in regulatory news, the FCA has extended its senior managers certification regime 12-week rule in an emergency move to help financial firms cope with the pandemic. In a statement late in the day on Friday, the regulator said it was making the changes in exceptional circumstances. To summarise, for those of you that perhaps less familiar with the technical detail, the 12-week rule allows an individual to cover for a senior manager without being approved, where the absence is temporary or reasonably unforeseen, and the appointment is less than for 12 consecutive weeks. So the FCA has said if temporary arrangements last longer than 12 weeks as a result of this crisis, firms can notify us that they consent to a modification. In these cases, temporary arrangements can be extended up to 36 weeks. So that's one to keep on top of in terms of the management of your firm and your compliance. Just final thing to mention is that today is the publication of our, I believe, third special issue of NMA that looks at the future of advice. Now, Adam, I believe you've taken part in this and that you've had lots of interesting things to say, but just in short, it looks at where advice is going to be as a profession by the year 2050 and what some of the technological and personal changes could mean for the future of giving advice, and indeed the technicalities of charging and so on and so forth. So do keep a lookout for that. Again, a reminder, if you want that posted to your home address while you're working from home, just email workingfromhome@citywire.co.uk. That's all for the news from us.
Thank you, Ollie. And anything in particular you're looking out for this week?
Yeah, good question. Personally, I'm going to be hopefully doing a little bit of work on the diversity side of things this week. So I was in conversation on a Zoom call on Friday about mental health and well-being that you'll be seeing online in the next few hours, hopefully. And one of the things that came up was the sort of disproportionate impact of circumstances like this on women, particularly as regards financial affairs, but also things like childcare, which we know has come to the forefront of everyone's minds during the pandemic. So I'm going to be looking a little bit at that. If anyone would like to contribute from the Next Gen Planners group, or indeed anywhere else, just get in touch with me at osmith@citywire.co.uk.
Thank you, Ollie.
And Ollie, just to jump in there, actually, I think you're sporting a rather splendid Zoom backdrop there, and that has reminded me that on Wednesday, as part of our phone-in show, Adam Carolan is going to run a Zoom background competition. So get your special Zoom backgrounds ready, and the winner of a Zoom background, or the Zoom background competition, will actually receive one of Daniel, what's his name? Daniel, is it Daniel?
Radcliffe. Craig. Day-Lewis.
Daniel somebody's books. Adam actually will, I'm sure if he's on the call, correct me as to who it is.
Daniel Priestley, Adam?
I think it is Daniel Priestley book. I think we've got a whole segment of Daniel Priestley books to give away. So anyway, there'll be a book. It is Daniel Priestley, yes. There'll be a book to give away for our best Zoom backdrop on Wednesday. So look out for that. And moving on now to Chris, who always has a rather splendid backdrop of hundreds of books. It's Chris Budd's Wellbeing Thought for the Day. Chris, what have you got for us today?
Well, good morning, Adam and Phil and everybody else. I've been doing a bit of reflecting over the weekend, as have, it appears, most other people, because I've been asking lots of people how they're feeling about things at the moment. And by and large, people seem to feel two things. They seem to feel a bit scared about what's going on, don't know what the future holds, lack of control, that kind of stuff. And they also are thankful for what they do have. And it seems that this might just be bringing a bit of a period of reflection. So I'm just going to share my screen with you for a moment, because if we're reflecting, then maybe we should be thinking about why we do the things we do and why we have the values that we have. And this is Kolb's cycle of learning. And this shows how we develop our values and beliefs. Well, obviously, when we're all born, we're all exactly the same. Nobody has a belief when they're born. So we build our beliefs within us. And it's really important to understand that. And what happens is we have at the top an experience. When we have that experience, that then leads to a point of reflection. That point of reflection leads to some sort of conclusion from that experience, and which then leads to a new activity, new action, which creates new experience, and so on and so on. Now, clearly, if we're building up our experiences based upon our previous experiences, we're going to skew our beliefs in a certain way, which is why you meet people with crazy beliefs, crazy thoughts sometimes. It's because they've built these up over a long period of time. Now, when we apply this to money, to our well-being, how we use money to increase our well-being, we can see that that's why some people are high risk and some people are low risk. There's no reason why somebody should high risk and somebody else should be low risk. That doesn't make any sense at all why we're different. We should all be exactly the same, but we're not because of our beliefs. So if we're all stuck inside and stuck, thinking too much maybe, perhaps we could be unpicking some of these beliefs. And if we start from the basic principle that beliefs are not truths, that just because we believe something to be true doesn't mean that it is, and then apply that to how we spend our money, we might just come out of this with a different attitude to our money and maybe an improved one. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, sorry, Adam. Thank you, Chris.
Can I just add one thing, by the way? If anybody's got any questions about financial well-being in general, throw them out in the chat over the next 5 minutes. I'll write them all down and try and address them over the next...
Cheers, Chris. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris. We'll do that. And now it's actually over to our interview guest today. And today we've got Gary Hale from HK. Gary, good morning.
Can you hear me now?
We can, Gary. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I was on mute. Maybe that was a good thing. I'm not sure. Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Gary. I noticed the sign in the background there says "Gone Sailing." I imagine there's not a huge amount of that.
Yeah,
right.
I should really turn that round and. Yeah, that's probably the answer to one of my questions. Maybe at the end of the interview, perhaps. But anyway, we'll maybe come to that.
Of course. So we'll launch straight into our questions for the day. So Gary, you launched HK Wealth Management in 2001, and you've run the business through some difficult times over the last 20 or so years. So tell us, what lessons have you taken from the challenges over those 20 years that might be relevant today?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you for everybody who's put this together. These morning sessions are a great start to my day, and it definitely has helped with my routines to get going. And so a massive thanks to everybody involved in it. It's definitely made a big difference to me in getting going in the morning. So thank you for that, first of all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, when you say that, nearly 20 years, it's surprising, you know. It's I can't believe that's come around so quickly. Where the time goes. So, you know, my business is a small business, sole advisor business. I guess I'm small and nimble, and less than about 90 clients. So, I think it does still show in this day and age that sort of small, successful, profitable businesses are okay. You know, you don't have to be a large organization. And I think it's also, for me, from my point of view, it's been quite straightforward to deal with the current situation as a result of being small. I've not had lots of teams to reorganize and rejig all over the place. So from that point of view, that's been, I guess, advantageous from my point of view. Another thing I think is dealing with other sort of great companies. You know, for me, I've got sort of strong dealings with the likes of Vanguard and Dimensional, and I think their support has been brilliant throughout this period. I also use sort of Truth, Presswood, cash flow planning, and again, the use of that software and you know, their support over this period has also been great. And I guess another important business to me is my platform, and sort of my main platform is Nucleus, and again, you know, I can't fault the service that I've received over this period from them. A very difficult period, you know, for these businesses, and you know, we've probably all experienced some bad examples of service. And you know, they as a business, for example, are all working from home completely, and it's pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, business as normal. I did joke with somebody there the other day, and I actually thought the service was perhaps slightly better than it normally is, but I'm not sure if that was a good thing or not. I think another thing, you know, just generally over the period, you know, the sort of 18, 19 years is, you know, just simple things like being honest with people, telling the truth, admitting when you make a mistake. We all make mistakes from time to time. Resolve them quickly if you make a mistake. Admit it, you know, simple things. Admit it when you don't know something, but find out the answer and get back to them with the answer. I think sometimes just the sort of simple and little things in life. I think another important thing, a sort of key thing for me in my business is dealing with great clients as well as sort of partnering with other great businesses. I think dealing with great clients. I've had some clients for almost, as you say, 20 years now, and some of them in this situation are asking more about, you know, how I'm doing and how my family are doing than actually too bothered about their investments. You know, I'm sure they are bothered about them, but I think, you know, they arguably put that to the back of their minds. And are more concerned about other things, which is great. I think that's a sign, hopefully, of dealing with good clients and having a good business. So, hopefully that's of some help.
Thank you. Yeah, very much so. So, you mentioned there really sort of some of the changes that everybody is settling into and beginning to settle into a new routine. So, what are the best things for you so far that have come out of this temporary new reality?
Yeah, I think the main thing, to be honest, that stood out for me is, as a profession generally, how much we've rallied round. I think generally we do anyway. I think as a profession, we're pretty good at sharing ideas and coming up with new ideas and not sort of hoarding them or keeping them to ourselves. I think we generally are very good, but I don't know, perhaps it's been escalated in this period, or it's just more noticeable. You know, things like this that we're doing this morning, and things, you know, like, for example, a good example is Phil Bray and his business putting together the sort of the Zoom guide, you know, and obviously off the back of that is also raising money for charity, which is great. I have paid for the charity donation, by the way, just, you know, so, but it's that type of thing. And there's lots of examples, you know, the amount of things that people are doing to sort of rally round and support, which I think's great. So it's been great to see that. I think for me personally, more use of Zoom. I don't think I had used Zoom before this happened, and I'm obviously pretty much using it on a day-to-day basis. So there will be more use of technology. I'm looking into digital e-signatures at the moment. I appreciate some of the more tech-savvy and younger advisors might be shocked that I'm not using them yet, but that, you know, I'm looking to implement that pretty soon. I am looking forward to, though, I must admit, going back to doing face-to-face meetings. I think I had an exchange with Phil on Twitter a few days ago or something, you know, about why he was arranging you know, he's absolutely right that, you know, meeting with people face to face, and it's a different experience. This is good, but I don't think it's the same. So I'm looking forward to getting back to meeting. I'm only slightly concerned as, are we going to be shaking hands with people, or are we going to be bowing? I'm not sure about that, but we'll find.
I'm not sure that the elbow bump had time to catch on, did it, in the short period of which we were able to deploy it, but we'll see what happens when we get
there.
So there's been quite a lot of market volatility, of course, over recent weeks. What has surprised you the most with your clients in that period?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty extreme. I guess the severity of the pandemic, but also the severity of the market movements. And I think positively, from my point of view, I've been really pleased that the lack of people that have actually contacted me, sort of particularly sort of worried or concerned. You know, thankfully, I've had lots of contact with clients, which has been important, and I'm sure most of us have. But I think out of about 90 clients, I've had 3 clients contact me who I would say were quite concerned about the situation, and noting that all 3 of them were relatively new investors, so I'd say within the last 1 to 2 years. The rest, pretty much all of my sort of, you know, more established clients, or clients that have had investments for longer, seem to be more comfortable with the situation. You know, an example in it was either an email and a message was from a client, was "here we go again" sort of thing. You know, so going back, you know, 2008 and beyond, clients who've been through that and seen what can happen and how it can react. You know, I think so. Yeah, I guess that was my main thing was, you know, I'm pleasantly surprised that clients, hopefully the messages I've been putting out to clients, you know, over the years, and I think doing annual planning meetings and reviews and going over things with them, you know, you're putting those messages strongly towards them that these things happen. And I think the other important thing, and I've said this a few times before as well, and other things, is clients are concerned about a lot of other things at the moment as well. And I know other people have been mentioning this. It's not just all about their investment. You know, we're combining a global, you know, health emergency pandemic with a financial crisis. It's almost like the perfect storm with, you know, that's going on at the moment. And I think as a result of that, yes, clients are concerned about markets and investments. I think in truth, a lot of them are, you know, more concerned about other things like their health and well-being and that of their sort of family and loved ones. And I think that's probably a bit of a distraction from some of the investment related sort of queries, perhaps. That's my thoughts on it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, definitely. And so you apply a lifestyle financial planning model in your business. And of course, a lot of the client reaction will be, I suppose, driven from the early interactions with that model. So what would you say for you is the most important question that you ask your clients?
Yeah, good question. I don't think I have a specific question, to be honest. I think the key to what, you know, planners are doing, or good planners, and certainly from my own point of view personally, is I guess I ask lots of questions. You know, I'm curious about people. I want to find out about them, you know, better understand them, find out what, you know, what interests them, what they're interested in, what's important to them, who's important to them. And I think probably most important, or as important, as well as, you know, asking a variety of questions and really getting to know them, is to listen to people. You know, I think listening to people. So yeah, I think rather than a sort of specific question, it's a variety of questions, and just being curious and listening well, I guess, is how I'd sort of sum that up.
Thank you. And there's plenty of people, particularly on Twitter, that are very willing to give advice to fellow professionals. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Yeah, I mean, having been around for, you know, 18, 19, nearly 20 years, I've had a lot of advice from a lot of people, which has been fantastic. You know, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing just now, I don't think, without that. And you know, I think communities like this help with that. So loads of advice over the years. I think I'm not sure it's the best piece of advice, but it's the one that sticks out for me. And I think I got it from Paul Etheridge many years ago, and it was the phrase "once a messer, always a messer," in terms of dealing with clients. So you know, I mentioned earlier, I guess the situation I'm in just now and working with my clients is a good position to be in. And I think because mainly I've got a good bunch of clients, you know, they're nice people, and I got on well with them, they got on well with me. So I think if you identify early on when you're sort of meeting at the first stage, or at, you know, early stages of potential new client, if they just seem like, as I think it was Paul Etheridge said, you know, if it looks like they're going to be a messer, you're probably better trying to sort of walk away and avoid them, and look for other clients that you're more likely to get better and engage with. And I think that certainly helped me over the years. So it's maybe not the grandest piece of advice, but I think it's a decent piece of advice that should work.
And is that an official client segmentation piece in your client model then? Do you have a column for messer?
Yeah.
So I know you've been doing some work with the PFS Financial Planning Panel. I know they've put some more content out there recently on the website. Tell us a little bit about the work you're doing there.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, but the Personal Finance Society Financial Planning Practitioners Panel is, I think we're still to come up with a better name for it, but that's so there's a great bunch of us. There's about 14 of us in total, if those of you can see there. We're really pushing more proper financial planning content out to the profession through the Personal Finance Society membership. And as you say, a whole variety of activities going on, from podcasts to videos, and going on to the pfspower.org website, you'll gain some information. So there's a lot of new content. These guides are all, there's a variety of these guides are all on there in PDF format, and loads of great articles by lots of people that people in the next gen will be familiar with, from Chris Budd, etc., to a whole load of people that you'll already be familiar with. So I think, there's lots of good stuff going on out there by lots of people. It's another example. I think it's definitely worth checking out in terms of some of the resources. So worth checking that out.
Excellent, thank you. And you alluded to it maybe at the beginning of the interview, but we always like to ask a final question of all of our interview guests. So when the restrictions are lifted, what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to going sailing. I'm looking forward to going back to the gym, actually. I've got a sort of makeshift home gym at the moment, which is okay, but it's not quite the same. I'm looking forward to going on holiday with family and friends, and I'm looking forward to catching up generally face-to-face with family and friends. So a whole host of things, I guess, I'm looking forward to, but they're not necessarily in that particular order, but yeah, a whole host of things.
Gary, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
So now we're going to reintroduce Tomo for Tomo's tight ass tip of the day. And Tomo, you set the bar high last week with your tip, looking at the size of a partner's feet. So what have you got for us today?
Well, it's all downhill from here, isn't it? So I've got a couple this week. I said I'd chuck in some serious ones rather than just silly ones, but I thought I'd start with a silly one. Over the weekend, I received a tweet from Catherine Morgan, and it was on the lines of, who's put their kids into furlough with 80% pocket money? I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, parents out there, start thinking about that. Whether you'll be able to get government help for that, I'm not so sure. But my serious one this week is something called specified adult childcare credits. Now, some of you might know what that already is, some of you may not. So imagine a scenario that you have a client who is a grandparent, who's no longer working, who is looking after maybe a day a week, looking after their grandchildren. Well, what you can actually do is claim national insurance credits if you are looking after a grandchild, and there are other family members that are included in this. For example, my mother-in-law looks after my son on a Thursday, and Lindsay works enough to have her own national insurance credits, but we also get the child benefits credits come through. At the end of each tax year, we're able to claim a national insurance credit for my mother-in-law, who's now retired, but has 4 or 5 years she needs to get the full state pension. So for her, it's saving her about 700 odd quid, paying voluntary national insurance contributions. So a serious one, but you will have clients in this scenario, I'm sure, and worth looking into. It's just a bit of a value add for you.
Cheers, Tomo. That was far more serious than last week, but definitely useful.
It's a Monday. I'll be sillier on Thursday.
You go for it. Right, next, every Monday, we have our tech focus section with Alistair and Jose. And this week, Alistair, I think we're starting off fairly naturally with Zoom.
Yeah, I'm going to call this one the elephant in the Zoom. You don't all need to laugh. It's fine. Just spent the last 3 days coming up with that. How are you doing, Jose?
Very good, very good. Here from not so sunny Lisbon. It's even snowed last week, so kind of a crazy weather going on here.
I got to say, despite Tom's amazing background, you are really taking the morning commute the most seriously once again. So I think broadcasting from your car has got to be background of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, elephant in the Zoom. I think everybody has probably seen the absolute torrent of news, opinion, incorrect opinion, incorrect information, incorrect opinion, maybe not that, but incorrect information, just absolutely flowing out about video conferencing over the last few days. I have ended up with being a little bit of an unofficial spokesperson for Zoom in our profession, which is a bit unfortunate for me. I got a load of DMs on Twitter about it, like it's my fault that Zoom's insecure. God damn it! I'm really apologise about that. I spent the weekend trying to fix the bugs, but apparently I don't have a good one. So I put out some stuff on Twitter about what you can do. Then over the weekend, someone from Zoom obviously read it because they automated it all, which was kind of them. So you might have had some trouble getting on this morning to the morning commute today because they've automatically added passwords, they've added waiting rooms. This is all good stuff. One thing that hasn't been mentioned, but it might just be worth me pointing out, if you go into your participant section when you're in a meeting and you're running it, you can actually click the More button and you can lock the meeting once it's started. So that's a really great way of making sure if it's just you and a client, you can just lock the meeting, nobody else is going to be able to join. That was my favorite little tip. So what's, you guys use a lot of web conferencing, as you mentioned last week, Jose. So has it affected your company's views on what you're doing with web conferencing?
Not quite, because what we see is, Zoom has gone from 10 million users to 200 million users in 3 months, which is a massive growth. But most of that growth comes from just private clients. So Zoom is an enterprise tool. Most of our users are familiar with it. They're not sharing their passwords on Twitter. Or as Prime Minister Boris Johnson did, he shared his personal meeting ID, Zoom meeting ID. So that's a big no-no. And yeah, for us, it's business as usual. But as you say, there are a number of security issues that are being corrected, which is a good thing. Zoom is one of those, companies that's pretty huge, is more of milking maybe the user base and not listening to feedback as much as they should, a bit like in our industry. Their user interface isn't very good, but they are very stable. They are very, they have many features, and they're trying to make those features more user-friendly, let's say, for this less knowledgeable user base. So yeah, it's just a matter of common sense. I think that not sharing information publicly, locking the meetings is a great way to ensuring that nothing goes wrong. And yeah, Zoom has also made these features free for basic accounts and for free accounts. So yeah, I think that they've done a great job, and there's no need to worry about it, in my view.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention, we've probably got 30 seconds, so I'll try and keep this brief. But the other thing to mention is you've got specific security problems with passwords, Zoom bombing, and so on, and that's one genuine concern we should all be thinking about fixing. Then over here, you've got general issues. There are people saying, oh, Zoom is sending data to Facebook, Zoom is sending data to China, Zoom is sending data to your mum and telling her who you're speaking to. These are general security issues that we should be paying attention to, but that is just life on the internet at the moment. So yeah. I would focus on over here, specific things, what can we do to fix those? And I'd let the tech commentator world and pundits worry about this bit over here. And really the only reason that any other app doesn't have these concerns isn't because they're not there, it's just that nobody is investigating them, looking at them, focusing on them quite so much. So hopefully that's about us for time. So back to Phil.
Thank you, Alistair. Thank you, Jose. That's fascinating and very useful and very timely. Tomorrow we've got Marcus and Clements. We've got Coaching Focus with Catherine Morgan, and of course Chris with his financial wellbeing thought for the day.
Yep, and also just to give everyone a heads up for later in the week, of course, we've got Wednesday's phone-in style show with Rohan and Adam, and they're going to cover questions relating to delivering ongoing service and reviews. So ping all of your questions ahead of that to us or ask in the chat box on the day. Gretchen on Thursday is doing our Easter crafting session. So Gretchen held up a list of things last week rather, that you might want to be collecting ahead of that. So we'll ask Gretchen just to remind us of those in tomorrow's show, so people have got a chance to collect those. And also tomorrow we've got a new guest presenter as well. So we'll look forward to that. And everybody have a great day.